So, a lot of you guys are probably clicked on this video because there is a controversial title. And nice, you guys fell for my trap. No, I'm just kidding. We're here to address the Brock Purdy and Cam Newton situation, and I'm here to tell you that Cam Newton is 100% accurate in the stuff that he's saying about Brock Purdy. Now, if you go through Twitter, all these football analysts, talking heads, if you're a fan of the 49ers, you're going to see people dogging on this guy. They're going to be like, well, Cam Newton didn't drop on a fumbled ball in the Super Bowl. Therefore, his opinion is invalid. Or they're going to be like, oh, Cam Newton, this guy's so jealous of Purdy. Like, this guy was never the player. Bro, Cam Newton won an MVP. This guy dragged his team, his Carolina Panthers, to the final. And this is not me speaking as a Carolina Panthers fan. There is no bias in this. He was a good player. And people are just making up a bunch of this stuff, trying to just make it as if that whatever he's saying is completely false. It's not. If you listen to what Cam Newton is saying, it actually makes a lot of sense. His point about Purdy in terms of game manager is that in terms of pecking order, in terms of how good he is in respect to his position, he's not a top 3 player on the team. And I would agree. In fact, if you ask almost any 49er fan about who you think are the 3 best players, best, not important, those are very different things. We're going to touch upon that in a second. If you ask them who are the 3 best players on this team, no one's going to be like, oh, Brock Purdy is the clear-cut best player. Nobody is, because they have Trent Williams, they have George Kittle, they have Fred Warner, they have Dre Greenlaw, they have Christian McCaffrey, they have all of these stud players. They've got, all pros almost all over the field. No one is going to be like Brock Purdy, yeah, he's the clear cut, but no, not a single person, not even 49ers fans will tell you that. And Cam Newton's entire premise is based on that. Brock Purdy is playing well. He's playing his hats off. He is doing all of these things. He even says that.
Brock Purdy has to be the best player on the offensive side of the ball. And that's not the case.
And who's the best player?
Christian McCaffrey. Man, look, I ain't recanting shit. And if you really want to just be honest, if you add in the defensive talent and you add in the offensive talent, Brock Purdy is the 10th best player on this team. Okay, cool. Did he have a great game? Yes. Is he been playing out of his mind? Yes. Is he a quarterback that's hot? Yes. But he's still the 10th best player on his team.
What is his point? It's just that Brock Purdy isn't necessarily a top 3 player on his team yet. And that's totally fair. Brock Purdy's a second-year player. If you're a second-year player and you're playing this well, bro, 49ers, like, they're lucky, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. And it's not a knock on Purdy either, because, he's playing with Trent Williams. Like, Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer. George Kittle is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. CMC, based on his play, is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Fred Warner is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. There's more players that I'm probably missing. Like, Deebo Samuel, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but, like, he had a crazy season. Like, he's had a crazy season before. Now, I do think that Deebo's kind of overrated, but, that's a different point. All of these guys, yes, you would probably say is better than Purdy. But Purdy himself, I'd say, is a couple things. Purdy is a top 3 most important player. If Purdy goes down, the San Francisco 49ers they're in big trouble. The other thing is that Purdy can probably surpass, like, these players given time. Like, you gotta see how he does in the future. Like, he's a second-year player. He's shown a lot of promise. You don't have the background, like, you don't have the complete resume, the physical traits as these other great quarterbacks right now in the NFL do, to where, yeah, like, you would place him above that. But as a third most important player, and as well as he's playing, the term game manager and all these things kind of rubs you the wrong way because it feels like you're discrediting him, which I don't think that's what Cam Newton is trying to do. I think he's more so just trying to say, bros, this guy is playing his hats off, but he's just not necessarily a top 3 player. Now, that can change. He hasn't had a full off season. He's coming off an elbow surgery. Like, not a lot of people talk about that. And as the time of this recording, he did leave the field from the Super Bowl, leading in every single time he's touched the ball. Like, every time the 49ers offense has left the field, they've been leading. And there were 3 opportunities for the defense to close it out. They didn't. And I mean, if you're watching the game, like, Purdy kind of came to play. Like, he played pretty well. Like, he wasn't perfect. Like, there were a couple things that I think he missed. You know, it is what it is. He's a second-year player. He can improve. I'm sure he will improve. If the 49ers manage to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 seasons, or, like, in the next season especially, then, yeah, I don't see a reason why they won't extend Purdy and do all of that. But as far as I'm concerned, Cam Newton is completely correct in the things that he says, and I think that it also sheds light on this aspect of sports media, where people will say what is actually right, and then the people that kind of don't know what they're talking about will just discredit it, not actually listening to what his legitimate opinion is, and just do a bunch of, like, ad hominems, which, like, you know, if you do debate, they don't mean anything. Like, if you say something that's true, just because, you know, for example, let's say, I don't know, a really silly example is, like, I don't know, you argue that this is a certain color, right? Or even, I want to argue that this math equation is equal to 5. Well, doesn't matter if you don't have a math degree, like, it's still 5, man. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. The answer is still the answer. And in the same way, too many people are quick to dismiss players that have played professionally because they, you know, look at the stats or just, I don't know, something else, right? They are box score watchers, yada, yada, yada. Or they just take 3 seconds to look at their argument. But I do think that it is worth listening to professional players and their opinions, even if they seem ridiculous for a little bit, because, yeah, some professional players have a weird way of thought, and even if that's the case, like, it's still worth listening to because there is a place where they come from. And yeah, either way, I'm pretty much on board with what Cam Newton has said. I think he's pretty spot on with Purdy, but I don't think that necessarily discredits Purdy at all. Like, Purdy, I would say, is one of my favorite players to watch. I really like his story. He's a really great person from what I've seen. Nothing but respect on that end.